Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be looking at the recent election that happened today, Tuesday night, as I'm filming this. Of course, Tuesday is basically every election day, I think, and I'm going to be uploading this by Wednesday morning, so happy Wednesday morning to you. Luckily, I am on spring break, which is pretty epic, but, or as we on political Twitter and YouTube like to say, it's pretty based, so I'm actually cringing that I said that, but I'm not going to cut that out because I don't feel like editing this video and because I'm very hungry. But enough about me, let's talk about the recent election that happened in Wisconsin tonight. Jill Underly won the Wisconsin State Superintendent of Public Instruction election, and that is basically superintendent of the state. If you couldn't tell, you probably could tell, and I'm bad at explaining things. You can just Google superintendent if you don't know what that means. You're gonna have to take my word for it that I know what superintendent means, but if you don't, then that's really unfortunate, but I wouldn't blame you. So Jill Underly was essentially backed by most progressive she was backed by the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, I believe. She's a progressive. She was endorsed by basically every Democrat that waited on this race. Deb Kerr was technically a registered Democrat, so there's been a lot of talk from right wingers on Twitter, about how this was just two Democrats. Deb Kerr she's a registered Democrat, but she's a very conservative Democrat. She was referred to as a dino, meaning you're a Democrat in name only, by a lot of Democrats on Twitter. Now, of course, Twitter is not real life, and your average Twitter user is around 1,000 times saltier than the average human being, and, I don't know, I guess they have stronger opinions, but Jill Underly was definitely, from an unbiased perspective, she was definitely more liberal than Deb Kerr. Plus, Deb Kerr was actually endorsed by many Republicans who were, really a big part of this race. So, like Wisconsin, former Governor Scott Walker, who was a Republican who lost in 2018, he endorsed Deb Kerr. Deb Kerr was endorsed by former Secretary of Education under Donald Trump, Betsy DeVos. So these are two people that are, they're both Democrats, I guess, but one is significantly more progressive than the other. And, this was a good win for Democrats, and we'll talk about other races, but this was a solid win for Democrats. I didn't make a prediction on this race, but because it would have gotten no views. But it was a whoa. Okay, hopefully that text didn't show up on my screen. Because so just to sidebar, I don't really text off my computer too much, but I have a MacBook, so it's connected to, what I usually text off of, but I sometimes, if I randomly just, lose my train of thought in a video, it's because someone texted me and I forgot to turn off notifications for this video. So, yeah, and I've actually had, times I've had, to restart videos because I forgot to turn off, notifications, and someone's FaceTime me and I accidentally click accept and I completely lose my train of thought. I just cannot edit it out. I'm just so bad. But anyways, so as I was saying, this was a significant overperformance for Democrats. I think I didn't make a prediction, but I think I had them winning by 3 or 4. Kind of a little better than Biden. And I've been saying this because I think that the Republicans have a big problem, and that without Trump on the ballot, they're not going to get the rural and working class turnout that they need, that they got in 2020. And they still lost a lot of these states, like Wisconsin. Trump did historically well for Republicans with rural voters and working class voters, and he still lost the state. It's the harsh reality for Republicans. Now, if they run someone who's more traditional, like Mitt Romney or something, they can still win in some parts of the state. The suburbs are the suburbs really turned against Donald Trump, and that is a really big problem for the Republican Party because they're not winning without them. And you can't really have it both ways, and they have to find that candidate. I think the only one they have right now is Ron DeSantis, who has appealed to both suburban voters and rural working class voters. So, Deb Kerr, she was technically a Democrat, but I think we all know, as I mentioned earlier, she was backed by most Republicans, and she just did not get the turnout. Now, of course, this was a low turnout election. If we take a look at the 2020 election, Joe Biden won Wisconsin with 1.6 million votes. Trump got 1.6. He won by 20,000 votes, a little more than that. There are 3.2 million combined votes. 3.3 million because the third parties. 3.3 million combined votes in Wisconsin this year, or this election. There were around 900,000, I think. If hopefully I'm not too bad at math, but obviously a low turnout election, so it's not insanely it's not a great prediction of who's going to win, in 2022, 2024. But this is still an election that should have Republicans scratching their head. They should have been competitive. They should not have lost this race by over 15%. And this was beyond the worst case scenario. And I think, this is kind of similar to an election that happened, I think, a year ago. That was the first state Supreme Court election that ended up being consequential after the 2020 election there. Where I think Daniel Kelly, or his last name was Kelly, lost to Jill Karofsky. It was an upset. The Democratic Party of Wisconsin was expecting a loss. They were bracing, to have lawsuits and say it was an illegitimate election. They ended up winning, and they were like, "Whoa, we didn't expect to win there, to win here." And this is kind of similar. This wasn't really as high profile of a race as it was in April of 2020, which was already a year ago, which is crazy to think about. But this was still a race that was expected to be more competitive than a 15-point blowout for the Democratic preferred candidate. And I think we can just take a look at some of these results. Now, I'm actually going to map this out because this is really starting to bother me. I'm just going to pause this recording. This was basically the county map, and I'm assuming we're going to count Kerr as the Republican because she was endorsed by the notable Republicans, and Underley is the Democrat. This was the county map. This would be an insane blowout. Like, if you want to use Election Shuffler, which is a great tool, whoops, I just scrolled up, and my computer does that every time I scroll up. But this is this is an insane margin for Democrats. Like, they won counties that Donald, in here are the 2020 results. Donald Trump won a lot of, some of his strongest counties now. Florence and Taylor were both red, but, taking a look at a county like Lincoln, well, actually, I think that went red, but, Lincoln did not go red. Lincoln was a county that Trump won by like 23%, that ended up going, taking a look at Lincoln. This is the county that Jill Underley won. It was close. She only won it by around 2%, but, she still won the county. And even, I'm pretty sure, Obama didn't win this county. Maybe in 2008 he did, but he did not win this in 2012 despite a solid performance in the state otherwise. So, taking a look at these counties, the working class area is kind of near La Crosse, and this is the county of La Crosse, but, these areas surrounding it are very white working class. These were all Obama, Kerry, Gore counties, Clinton counties, Bill Clinton counties that Donald Trump won. He made historic gains for Republican here. They all reverted back. They all went, as you can see, they were very solid for Jill Underley. I mean, taking a look, La Crosse, obviously a Democratic stronghold, but Vernon County was a 22-point Underley county. It was Crawford was a 29-point Underley county, and despite Crawford being like an 8-point Trump county. So the Republicans didn't get the turnout they needed, like I've been saying for the past 3 months, and I've been getting, obviously no one has a fun time on Twitter, but I've been really consistent in saying that the Republicans are not going to get the turnout that they need, and they didn't. They're lucky that this wasn't a Senate race, because if this were a Senate race, they'd be completely screwed, but they lost a position that is it's somewhat important, because remember, Tony Evers, who's now the current governor of Wisconsin, who is a key part of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, he held this position before he ran for governor. So, I'm not saying Jill Underley's going to be the next governor of Wisconsin, but you never know. So we can see this now, but I think I'd rather overanalyze it than underanalyze it, or overreact than I guess underreact. Now, taking a look at the state Senate district and can I look at precinct results? Oh, it doesn't give me precincts, dang it. Oh, whatever. But anyways, we got a little sidetracked there. In the 13th State Senate District, this was a district. Let me pull it up on the New York Times map. We have some beautiful State Senate. State Senate the 13th. Let's do view all. It doesn't have results for the 13th? What do you mean? What? What? It doesn't show me the results for the 13th? Wait a minute, that can't be right. What? Okay, I don't get it. I was going to compare the results, but apparently New York Times doesn't got me here, but this was a district where the Democrats, I think they overperformed here as well, but I can't analyze it too much. This is, just taking a look at where it is, this is an exurban Milwaukee district, which I think would be like a 15-point Republican district. So the Democrats did overperform here. Hopefully they have the 89th district. They probably don't, though, in state assembly. Do they have it? Please tell me they have it. Oh, do they? They might have known to jinx it. Do they? Yes, they have it. So this is obviously going to be a Republican hold, where the Republican got 69% of the vote. Let's take a look at what they did here. They got around 62% of the vote. So the Democrats overperformed by around 7% here. So Oklahoma, obviously, this was, I think, this was obviously, I think the Republicans did about as well as you'd expect. This was a safety House district in Missouri, so they won there. So that was it for Wisconsin. I mostly want to talk about Wisconsin, but that's it. This is the big race we talked about. This was Tony Evers' spot before he became governor. And the Republicans, they weren't favored, I don't think, but this should have been a close race, and it ended up being a Democratic blowout. So I think tonight was a good night to be a Democrat in Wisconsin. And right now, obviously, I don't want to call anything prematurely based on a random special election, but I think the Democrats have to feel pretty good about what happened tonight. So if you enjoyed this video and found it informative, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. I have to go, so I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.